Hello, everyone. Today, I'll take you to Vancouver, British Columbia, one of the top cities in the world in terms of quality of life. With its cool climate and many travel destinations, it's an ideal place for visitors. However, since this channel focuses on criminal cases, I certainly can't overlook a case that once haunted the people of British Columbia. Thank you for clicking on this video. As a new YouTube channel covering crime cases worldwide, we appreciate your support. Leave a comment below so we can improve the quality of future videos. Thank you. The Pickton family owned a pig farm that had been passed down for 3 generations in British Columbia. Their son, Robert Pickton, was born in 1949, along with his siblings David Francis Pickton and Linda. The Pickton family had a violent father and a strict mother, who forced their children to work long hours on the farm from a young age. Additionally, Robert and his siblings were frequently subjected to physical abuse. From childhood, they endured a life of violence, hard labor, and virtually no childhood freedom. At the age of 14, Robert dropped out of school and took a job as a butcher at a meat shop. He worked there for 7 years before returning to his family's farm at the age of 21. He took over the farm and continued managing it until his father passed away in 1979. A year later, his mother also passed away. Robert and his siblings inherited the entire pig farm from their parents. By the time Robert was 45, the farm's land value had increased 400 times compared to when he first inherited it. The Pickton siblings sold a portion of the land for approximately 5.9 million Canadian dollars, which was later developed into residential areas, parks, and schools. After gaining wealth, they neglected farm work and turned the property into a party hub. The brothers founded a charity called the Piggy Palace Good Times Society, which literally meant good times at the pig farm. They frequently hosted free parties featuring barbecued meat, loud music, and strong liquor, with the intention of luring prostitutes. These free events attracted a large crowd. Beneath the surface of wild celebrations, however, illegal activities were rampant, and horrifying crimes began to unfold. On the 23rd of March 1997, a woman named Wendy Lynn Eistetter managed to escape from Robert Pickton's farm. She had fought back by stabbing him with a knife before fleeing in a horrific state covered in wounds. Robert had lured her to the farm using drugs. He had a sadistic sexual nature, treating women as prisoners while using torture devices to satisfy his twisted desires. When Wendy arrived at the farm, Robert took her into a trailer, preparing to handcuff her. It was at that moment she realized she was in the hands of a deranged predator. She fiercely resisted and tried to escape. Robert attempted to stop her, and during the struggle, Wendy managed to grab a knife from the table. However, due to her weak physical state, she was also injured while stabbing him. She fled in desperation and was fortunate enough to be picked up by a passing vehicle that took her to the police station. The police arrested Robert on charges of attempted murder, but he posted bail for 2,000 Canadian dollars and was released. Authorities noted that Wendy was a drug user and a prostitute, which led to Robert's bail request being approved. Criminology professor Kim Rossmo, who pursued this case, stated that many people had suspected Robert Pickton for years. It all started in 1983, when a young prostitute suddenly disappeared from downtown Eastside near Vancouver. Over the next few years, more women vanished without a trace, but the cases were largely ignored. By 1997, a total of 13 women had mysteriously disappeared, spreading fear throughout the region. Since most of the missing individuals were either sex workers or drug addicts, their cases received little attention. Elaine Allen, the owner of a brothel near Pickton's farm, confirmed that over the course of 5 years, a significant number of women had gone missing. According to police records, by 2001, a staggering 62 women had vanished without a trace. Authorities even offered a $100,000 reward, equivalent to over 2 billion VND, for any information leading to their whereabouts. However, despite the reward, women in Vancouver continued to disappear. 2 months after the reward was announced, a well-known American television show aired a report on the disappearances of Canadian women. After the episode was broadcast, the case gained widespread public attention. Under increasing pressure, the reward was doubled from 100,000 CAD to 200,000 CAD. Shortly afterward, police received an alarming tip. Someone claimed that a refrigerator on Pickton's farm contained human meat. Police immediately went to the farm to investigate, but without a search warrant, they could only question Robert without entering the property. Unsurprisingly, he denied everything. In 2002, authorities received a report from a truck driver, alleging that Robert illegally possessed firearms on his farm. On the 5th of February, investigators conducted a raid to search for weapons. However, what they found was far more horrifying. It was the beginning of Robert Pickton's horrifying crimes being exposed. During the search, police discovered personal belongings and jewelry from multiple missing women inside Pickton's home. As the investigation deepened, they unearthed human remains buried across the farm, sawed-off skulls, severed hands, and feet. A warrant for Robert's immediate arrest was issued, yet he continued to deny all accusations. Authorities launched an extensive forensic investigation. Every inch of the property from his living quarters to the pig pens and farmland was meticulously searched. Given that so many victims had been missing for years, police suspected that some bodies had decomposed to mere bones, or had even been dragged away by farm animals. Disturbing rumors also circulated that Pickton had ground up human remains and mixed them with pork, selling it at local markets, a revelation that sent shockwaves through Vancouver. The massive search effort at the farm required heavy machinery, including excavators, cranes, and even a conveyor belt spanning dozens of meters to ensure no evidence was overlooked. The investigation took over a year to complete. In total, approximately 60,000 pieces of evidence were collected, along with 80 unidentified DNA samples belonging to both men and women. The entire forensic operation cost nearly 7 million Canadian dollars. Throughout this process, police identified many of the victims. Investigators also tracked down Wendy Lynn Eistetter, gathering additional testimony to strengthen their case against Robert Pickton. Most of the body parts were found within a 70 radius area around the trailer where Robert lived. In the laundry room of the trailer, the police found a revolver. Robert was arrested on charges of weapon possession and murder. In January 2006, 4 years after his arrest, Robert was charged with the murder of 27 women. The trial was held at the British Columbia Supreme Court. However, during the trial, he pleaded not guilty. 2 months later, due to insufficient evidence, prosecutors dropped one charge, leaving 26 remaining. After more than 6 months of trial, based on the collected evidence, the judge divided Robert's 26 charges into 2 groups. One group contained 6 charges, while the other had 20. The court argued that conducting a trial for all 26 charges would take too much time, possibly extending to 2 or 3 years, increasing the likelihood of a wrongful conviction. Since the first group of 6 charges had clear evidence, the trial for these charges officially commenced a year later. In court, the prosecutor described some details about the victims when they were found. One body was discovered in a garbage bag. The victim's clothes, stained with red substances, were found in the trailer. Bones and teeth of another woman were discovered in the slaughterhouse. Part of another woman's body was found in a trash bin inside the slaughterhouse. The revolver was found in the laundry room of the trailer. The gun barrel had a dildo attached. Robert claimed that he had attached the dildo to reduce the sound when shooting pigs, and that it had nothing to do with the case. Other items included handcuffs, aphrodisiacs, ropes, and various other things. A total of 128 witnesses attended the trial. Among them was a woman named Lynn, who worked at Robert's farm. One night, she noticed that the slaughterhouse lights were still on. She went to check, and peering through a crack in the door, saw Robert bending over, working on something. A moment later, she was horrified to realize that it was the body of a young woman. Robert had killed her and then hung her body on a pig hook in the slaughterhouse. Fearing Robert's retaliation, she pretended not to know anything, did not report to the police, and found a way to quit her job at the farm. The British Columbia Supreme Court sentenced Robert to life imprisonment without parole for 25 years. Both the prosecution and Robert disagreed with the ruling and appealed to the Supreme Court of Canada. A year later, the Supreme Court of Canada rejected Robert's appeal and upheld the original verdict. Additionally, Robert still had 20 other murder charges awaiting trial. However, the British Columbia Supreme Court declared that it would not proceed with these additional charges, reasoning that they would not result in a harsher sentence for Robert. Furthermore, organizing a trial for the remaining 20 charges would be extremely costly. The British Columbia government announced that the investigation and trial of Robert's case had already cost 102 million Canadian dollars. The case was officially closed. In May 2013, the children and family members of the victims officially filed a lawsuit against the Vancouver police and the Canadian police, accusing them of failing to protect the victims. A year later, a settlement agreement was reached. Each victim's child would receive 50,000 Canadian dollars, and the matter would no longer involve the police. 9 years after Robert was convicted, a book claiming to be his autobiography was published. While in prison, Robert wrote and handed the manuscript to a fellow inmate. This inmate then gave the manuscript to Michael Chili, a retired worker, for editing and publication. The book was soon pulled from circulation due to controversy. During his imprisonment, Robert also told a fellow inmate that he regretted not being able to kill one more victim before his arrest, which would have brought the total to an even 50. This suggested that he was actually responsible for 49 murders rather than the 26 officially confirmed by the police. The pig farm case was referenced in the crime drama Da Vinci's Inquest, the horror film Killer Pickton, the documentary The Pig Farm, and the biographical film Pig Killer. The book, allegedly written by Robert and smuggled out of prison, titled Pickton, in his own words, was published in 2016, sparking major controversy. This led to its removal from publication and prompted authorities to implement measures preventing criminals from profiting from their crimes. Robert Pickton was serving a life sentence at Port Cartier Institution. He had been imprisoned for 17 years. On May 20, 2024, the Correctional Service of Canada announced that inmate Robert Pickton, 74, had been severely attacked by a fellow prisoner. His injuries were reported as particularly critical, and he was not expected to survive. His attacker was a 51-year-old inmate. On May 31, 2024, inmate Robert Pickton, 74, incarcerated at Port Cartier Institution, died in the hospital. In the end, Robert paid for his crimes with his own life. However, 17 years may have been too long to wait for justice,